Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty. Yesterday, I brought you the story of the Virginia Tech football player, Isaman Itute. He was deceived by Jerry Smith. And the story goes that Jerry Smith was posing as a woman named Angie. She met Eisman on Tinder. And basically, Eisman eventually met up with Jerry, who agreed to come by to his place. Now, when Eisman got to Jerry's place, Eisman noticed that the room was very dark. Jerry refused to show his face. And I guess that Jerry tried as much as he could to play the role of a female. So, it ended very badly. It ended with Eisenman basically breaking every facial bone in Jerry's body. And I had went into something about this, about how I felt like it's a very unfortunate situation. But you really do have to look at who caused this. Who was the perpetrator? This young man here is 18 years old, wanting to meet a female on a dating site, agreeing to have a sexual encounter with a female, not a male. You have a 40-year-old who posed as a female to meet this particular college student. But I want to take you back to yesteryear. 2002, Gwen Arreo, a 17-year-old, just starting her life out, did the exact same thing. She posed as a female when she was a biological male. Now, let me say this much. The LGBTQ community, the transgendered, they are doing a very piss poor job in informing these young women of the dangers of when you're trying to interact with men. Basically, what they're trying to do, these transgenders, they're deceiving. Deceit, manipulation, lies, that can lead to death. And in these two cases, it did exactly that. Gwen Arreo's case was extremely unfortunate. And I will cut it down short to you exactly what happened. Basically, she was from Newark, California. And she met a small group of men who she knew in that particular area. And like any teenagers who's interested in sex, she did that. And basically what she would do, it would be yes to oral sexting, and it would be rectal intercourse. But what she would tell them to throw suspicion off as to why they couldn't go vaginally is that she was on her period. So basically, she had sex with 2 of the 4 men who was accused of murdering her. She was discovered to be a biological male at a party in which she had attended by the defendants. These 4 men threw a party, she attended, and they were questioning her about her sexuality at the party. Now, mind you, earlier, one of her family members did not want her to go to that particular party. They got a bad feeling about it. But she went anyway. I guess she wanted to be in the in crowd, to be accepted, to be included. She basically wanted to be looked at as a female. So earlier, not at the party, but earlier, she did engage with sexual activity with 2 of the men who were there. And what ended up happening was that one of the females who was there was a boyfriend to one of the defendant's brothers. So she walked into the bathroom and discovered that Gwen was actually a male, and she blurted it out. And the man got very upset, extremely angry, and they proceeded to beat her mercilessly. A frying pan went over the head, a can of food to the head, strangulation. It was just terrible. No one deserves to die like that, even if they are deceiving you sexually. However, here's the problem. Even though laws have been passed against the gay panic defense, we do not know how a straight man will in turn act when he does find out that someone he has been intimate with is the same gender as he. We're dealing with men who do not look upon themselves as being gay in any way, shape, or form. When one of the men found out that she was actually a male, he threw up. And he started crying. He started saying, "I cannot be gay, I cannot be gay." I have been saying this for the longest, that for the protection of the transgender, a law needs to be passed about sexual battery. They should really consider men who are deceiving other men into thinking that they are women. That should be considered sexual battery. In a way, you can look at this type of behavior in the case of, like, if someone knows someone. Well, Gwen was flirting with these men earlier. I'm flirting with these men. I'm talking with these men. I'm deceiving them into believing that I am a biological female. Isn't that some type of sexual grooming? And you got to look at the family that Gwen has left behind, the family that Jerry Smith has left behind. Look at what you do when you choose to take on this very risky life. You tend to risk your life. Look at all the pain and devastation that you leave behind. When in fact, all they have to do is just be upfront and honest about who they are and what they're going through. I just do not think or believe that you should put other people through your questioning, your transition, your unanswered questions about yourself, your transformation. They should not be a part of that. That should be separate. That should be something that you should be going through. You should not be experimenting with men. And a mentality should not be taken where trans will be trans. It's kind of like boys will be boys. It should not be taken like, well, this is a part of my journey, trial by fire. You got to understand that you're playing with your life when you do this. There's an old saying, it used to be a commercial, that a car is not a toy. Well, someone's brain is not a toy neither. And you need to be extremely careful with that. Because not everyone is going to think of this as being something, it's no big deal. What's the problem? See, I think that many trans people who fool around with men are thinking in that particular way. No big deal. What's the problem? It's just a head job. It's just sex. No, it's a lot more deeper than that. And you have to really get into the mind of other people as to how they would think. And you have to realize that when you partake in this type of deceptive sexual behavior, you are taking away someone else's choice. You talk about acceptance. The LGBTQ plus I community talks about acceptance. Yes, we want to be accepted. I get that. But you have to accept too that a lot of men want biological women. A lot of men do not want a transgendered woman. A lot of men do not want someone who is in drag, who is pretending to be a woman. All that's part of acceptance too. And that's what you have to accept. And as I had mentioned in a previous video, many of these trans people are drag queen people too. You would be surprised at how many men are actually interested in you. A lot of men are curious. They may not be gay, but believe me, there are plenty out there who will experiment. No, you will not get as many if you're not a biological female. But however, you will get some men. You will get some to get, to get enough to get an experience in life. But this whole idea of this deviant sexual practice, lying, manipulating, deceiving, being dishonest, doing stuff like that, unfortunately, you are bringing bad to yourself. And with these two cases here, these are two women who brought this upon themselves. And the outcomes are extremely unfortunate. Even though they did not deserve that. Remember, you cannot get into the head and mind of someone, of a straight man who believes they are straight and is suddenly confronted with, he was with a man. And this is what I want to talk about too. The Gwen Arreo story, A Girl Like Me. You know, I have mixed emotions about these stories, about these movies that come out, because what they tend to do is that they tend to satanize Satan. I don't mean Satan. Saint, like a saint. Or they tend to basically make the trans person or the victim seem like a saint who's all innocent. Yeah, they didn't deserve that. But at the same time, in token, the men did not deserve to be tricked either. And these movies tend to have this whole notion, this whole innocent victim. But as I mentioned before, lying, deceiving, I mean, you're not so innocent when you do that. I mean, sexual battery, come on, that sexual battery to me is in the same category as rape, child molestation, things like that. So you know you cannot be that innocent. And that's where the LGBTQ community has truly did a disservice by not calling out this type of behavior for what it is, sexual battery. So I just think that in the future, people who are going through this need to be very careful. They need to be cognizant that what you are doing when you choose to deceive people sexually is not something lighthearted. It's not something that's like, oh, it's no big deal. Yes, it is a big deal. And it's such a big deal that we have seen many a times in many of cases where people have paid for this with their lives. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is another edition of Sin Beyond and Through with Monty. And I will see you all beyond and through.